just yet. They chose their king, their power was met, but we don't answer to Ottawa yet. No crown gave us what we've earned, just dirt and fire and lessons learned. Now the ground it shakes, the steel it groans, and Alberta walks alone. We ride sovereign steel through fire, through frost. We ain't the last, we're the line they lost. Alberta stands, never on its knees. A nation born in the forge of the free. From the rigs to the rails, the crops to the code, we lit their streets, we bore their load. They laughed at pride, they mocked the West, but freedom don't die, it just waits for the test. The cowboys ride, the farmers rise, 5 million strong under open skies. No leash, no lie, no foreign throne. This land is steel and it stands alone. We ride sovereign steel through fire, through frost. We ain't the last, we're the line they lost.
Whoa! Welcome to 7-Eleven Daily Summary with Bruce Show. I'm on fire. You know, what an amazing night we had last night. If you weren't there, if you weren't participating, if you didn't see my live, you got to check it out. 4,000, 5,000 people at least were there in Calgary at the Big Four Center. It was an amazing turnout. The energy was intoxicating. People, they weren't actually on fire, but somebody pulled the fire alarm trying to dissuade us from, continuing the independence movement of Alberta. But nobody moved. Not a soul ran for the door. It was epic. Those socialist NDPers, they tried to scare us and tried to get us out of there, but no, we weren't leaving. Anyway, I have got a great show for you. I am so excited to be here. First of all, I am so excited to be alive, and I'm so grateful for this moment that you are here with me. We are living through extraordinary times, and no different than last night. I have one extraordinary guest on tonight. You are going to be excited. I told when I posted it to X today, I said it's going to get spicy. We've got Brodie from OneBC here, and we're going to ask her to go all out and leave it on the floor. So we're going to have Brodie join me here in a second. Anyway, like I said, I'm very excited to be here. So grateful for you. So make sure to share this out there. Get more eyeballs on this information. We have got to wake Canadians up to what's going on. I appreciate you being here. Like I said, make sure to get this out. You can always follow me through untruethenews.com. I got to remember to talk about my website a bit more so you can find me. I've got a calendar that I've added recently for the next coming up guests. And so we can maybe keep track of what's going on. Anyway, I'm on X, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Rumble, I'm on BitChute, I'm on Twitch tonight. We'll be live on Twitch. We're live on yournews.com. Hopefully right now. Oh, hang on 1 second. I messed up. Dallas, stick around while I fix something that I almost forgot. Darn it. Anyway, I got so excited to talk to Dallas that I forgot to do this one little thing where I join yournews.com to be here. So hang on 1 second while I get that going. All right, we're going now. Go. All right. So I always like to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to the last 5 years going through the dark times. Really changed a lot of people, myself included. We have been refined And we've gone through obviously some hard times, and that obviously shapes people into who they are today. I also want to say thank you to my family, my friends, and the circle of influence that has brought me here. But one of the other things I like to do is I like to shop local. I like to support local businesses. You got to do it. You got to create that that alternative stream of goodness. You know, people around you, people that can supply food, people that can supply goods. You've got to get out there and support local. Anyway, I'm not your investment advisor, but I do suggest holding gold and silver to protect your family's wealth. Unscrew the news, or sorry, go through my website, unscrewthenews.com, go to nuggetstacker.com, right through there, go to their logo, and you'll see it. And when you do, you'll get a bit of a discount. Get some gold and silver for your family. If you have any questions, 1-866-644-2121. They will take care of you and your family. All right, we're going to get into it. We're going to unscrew some news, and I'm coming to you from the heart of the battle-ready nation of Alberta. We bring you truth and optimism, and our goal is to break free from the media and the globalist mind control. It is January 27th, 2026. This is episode number 259. Dallas Brodie bears all. You know, we're going to bring her on here, and she is going to let loose on what the heck is going on over in BC. So I want to welcome Dallas Brodie to the stage. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm just going to talk a little bit more about you for a second. Hopefully you don't mind. I want to impart into my audience a little bit more about her. But Dallas Brodie serves as the MLA for Vancouver. I hope I say this right. Quilchena, and leader of the OneBC party, championing policies that prioritize private property rights, free speech on campuses, and the repeal of race-based laws like DRIPA to foster equality and prosperity across British Columbia. I want to welcome you. Thank you so much for joining me. Another warrior. I am so grateful for the warriors that I've been able to assemble on the show. And you are definitely one of them. I continue to be amazed at where you put yourself, and your family must be scared sometimes, and you must be scared sometimes. But goodness gracious, we are so blessed to have you here in amongst the other warriors. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Bruce. It's actually a real honor to be on your show. And yes, this is a time for warriors. I love that expression from Javier Milei, who says, I'm not here to awaken sheep, or I'm not here to herd sheep, I'm here to awaken lions. Nice. And right now in our country, we need lions. We need people to be strong, find the warrior they would have had in decades gone by, and stand up and fight for our kids right now. In your introduction, you said that the last 5 years have been, I don't know what the word was, but they have afflicted us. We were subjected to a revolution that we didn't even know was coming. And we are now weary and torn, but we are now fighting back and saying we need to get on our feet, and we need to fight back for the Canada we once knew. I don't recognize Canada anymore. When I talk to people like you, I feel better, and the people around me, we're all working hard. But really, we were subjected to something absolutely horrendous. Mm-hmm. And we were brutalized by our federal government and our provincial governments. But the federal government, what they did to Canadians was appalling.
Appalling. I can't agree with you more. I mention it because I think, and I can't speak for you, but I can see, the fire in your belly when you're out there amongst, the university students and the Antifa crowd that you're jumping in front of, that you're obviously you feel that the need to fix what is wrong with I don't know. It's not just our country, right? You mentioned this, but it's our cities, it's our provinces, it's our countries, and it's our whole North America. The whole Western world is upside down, and the propaganda that we were inflicted, the propaganda that we all were subjected to was so overwhelming, and they got obviously a lot of Canadians. I mean, we all know the elbows up people are the same people that would have outed you for having people over for Thanksgiving, or called you out if you went to see grandma in the nursing home. They're still the same people falling for the same propaganda over and over again. But God bless you. Thank you so much for being here. I want to start off because I want to give everybody a real taste for what Dallas Brodie is all about. And I don't know what your title is on producing this film, but I had been talking to Jim McMurtry about it a little while ago before it even came out. So what was the hand that you had in putting this project together?
Well, the idea to do the documentary was mine after experiencing what happened, being expelled from I was an MLA for the Conservative Party of British Columbia, and I had no sooner gotten elected and sat in the legislature for only a few months. I posted a tweet about the 215 bodies that have not been found at the Kamloops Indian Residential School, and I swiftly found myself out and thrown out of the party and sent to Siberia. And so as we were moving along, I said, we should do a documentary about all of this and what's going on in BC, and how UNDRIP and DRIPA, which we'll come back to and describe what those are to your audience, are affecting British Columbia. And then so the group of us got together. I ended up being this is what I discovered. So it was like Dallas's journey and learning about what's really going on, because I had a lot to learn. It was way worse and way deeper and way bigger mountain than I had ever seen. And I had no idea how deep and troubling what's going on in our province when I first kicked that hornet's nest. So now we did the documentary. I narrate it, but we had an excellent videographer who came. We traveled the province in a van, 6 of us, and we went from city to city to city. We kept our expenses as low as we could because we really had very little money. And we just started interviewing people, finding people who would go on camera. And then we had an awesome editing team. My former chief of staff, Tim Thielman, did a lot of the writing for it. Incredible. He's got a brilliant legal mind. He did a terrific job of explaining to us, because he knew the landscape of the reconciliation industry, because he had worked in it as a lawyer for 12 years.
Yeah.
So it was an enormous. We couldn't have done it without him. And then we had. Everybody had a role to play. People who were just there. We had camera people. We had people just arranging things. There's a lot that goes into this, and it was quite a journey. And it took the editing and the filming, and then we hired an incredible editor, and they just did a terrific job. And culminating in a documentary that was released on December 1st of last year. It was filmed in the first half of July.
It's fantastic. Okay, I'm just going to show a clip of it here shortly, and we're just going to talk about this so that we can give everybody a taste of what we're up against.
Thanks for coming out, everyone. Unfortunately, I have some bad news, which is that the venue here has now said that we need to leave.
I didn't run for office expecting everyone to applaud.
Not 1, not 2, but 3 hotels in total said, you can't have this group talking about that in Kamloops.
But I also didn't expect this. Being swarmed by Canadians indicting themselves for charges of mass murder, or having to take on an industry ready to exploit their guilt.
It matters, right? Because we want the truth to be. We want the truth on this.
But that's where I found myself, confronting stories that could not be questioned, narratives manufactured to siphon wealth and power from open-hearted citizens. British Columbia is sitting at a pivotal crossroads. We have a beautiful land with extraordinary resources, abundance beyond the wildest imaginations. The rot in our province is deep. It is evident in our streets, our economy, and our culture. We can be the greatest place to live, or we can descend into ruin. So what is this narrative? Is it true? And if it's not, what will it cost us to live by a lie?
Wow. I'm stopping it right there because obviously I could sit here and watch it, but I'd rather talk to you, Dallas. So what do you want to say? Because let's start off with this, obviously, and because this is such a huge Okay, you called it an industry. And when I talked to Fances Widdowson, she said the same thing. So maybe start there.
Well, Francis calls it the Aboriginal industry. I call it the reconciliation industry. It's basically the same thing that we talk about. What we're talking about is an industry that's developed around the largesse of federal, provincial, and municipal government purses being opened into a river of money that flows under the title of, Indigenous relations, reconciliation, you name it, all of this, but it's all flooding in one direction. It's all under the name of the same thing, that we've done harm to people and we're still fixing it.
Right.
And
right.
so basically the industry is comprised of chiefs and counsel, lawyers, small law firms, big law firms. Almost every law firm now has a massive Aboriginal law group, if you can believe it. They used to have
Right.
forest group, mining group. Now they have an Aboriginal law group, because I practiced law for a long time and there was never these huge Aboriginal law groups. So then there's also the developers who are making a lot of money, because land is being transferred in the name of this as well. And the land that's transferred is then allowed to be developed without any of the regular zoning rules that normally govern developments in anywhere
Right. So
and
developers are scrambling to get a piece of that action.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, this is the only land left, and it's the best one because you can pack it full of density that you'd never be allowed to do anywhere else.
Right.
So the fourth group is the consultants, whether it's archaeological consultants or environmental consultants or psychiatric consultants. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about the money that flows into this bucket. And so that's the industry. The people who it's not helping are the average Native people living on reserves in Canada. And that's what the majority of Canadians always thought this money was going to do. We don't want to hear stories anymore about boiling water advisories on reserves. We don't want to hear about an entire band having to be flown down from Northern Ontario to take refuge in another place because they've got sewage flooding all through their reserve. Canadians are like, how could this still be happening? We have spent billions and billions of dollars on this, and we're still dealing. Nothing is better. And in fact, in British Columbia, things are markedly worse. Since the announcement of the 215 graves that were supposedly of children at the Kamloops Indian Residence School, the amount of money has ticked up like literally it took off like a rocket ship.
Yeah.
And so that's almost 5 years ago. But since the New Democratic Party, which is a very, very left-wing party in British Columbia, I don't know how it gets votes, but it does. Since they came to power 8 years ago, the average lifespan of an Aboriginal person in this province has dropped by 6 years.
Wow, that's extraordinary. Yeah. Over that short period of time.
Yep, and the majority of children in foster care are Aboriginal. The majority of children dying from fentanyl overdoses are Aboriginal. The majority of people living on the streets suffering this horrible life are Aboriginal. So you'd think, well, with all this money, not one Native person should be on the street. Not one
Right.
should be from any of this stuff. And why are they taking drugs? Well, they're depressed. Why are they depressed? Because living on these reserves is an exercise in futility. They're living in despair. They can't own land. You know it, you name it. I mean, that's a whole other story, but We've got problems that are so deep, and this money, Canadians are generous. I'm generous. We've always wanted our Aboriginal fellow Canadians to do well. We all have wanted that, but we're watching this going, wait, something's going wrong here. The money is higher than ever and it's worse than ever. So
right.
Yeah.
There's obviously a disconnect.
Yeah.
And this continues. You know what? Let's go down this path a bit further, because you've had, I've mentioned it already, but you've had a number of experiences with Frances, and probably on your own on these campuses. But it's part and parcel, because you're trying to just have conversations. It seems like. Yes. Maybe you can discuss what the purpose is of going to these campuses. Because I think it's pretty understandable. But the other side of things, the ones that want to continue to believe that we are these horrific people that would have murdered 215 children, and we want to continue to, I guess, disgrace, or are we being, I don't know the right word for not recognizing that this is a hoax, but we're
But
just saying that shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't
no,
say, right?
it shouldn't be a problem at all. And the idea for going to the campuses was originally Fances Widdowson's, who, if anybody hasn't heard of Fances, she makes an appearance in our documentary. She's one of the most educated people on the issue of the history of the residential schools in Canada. She's amazing. She's like a walking encyclopedia, along with another woman who's in our documentary named Michelle Sterling. And these two women have researched and they know the history. Jim McMurtry is also in our documentary, and he knows a lot about it too. They're far more well-versed and historically academic about this than I am. But Frances started doing something what she calls street epistemology. And she wanted to go onto campuses and exercise, because she lost her job as a result of all of this mess, because she was refusing to buckle to the pressure to say things that were not true to her students.
Right.
Same case for Jim McMurtry. And they talk about that in the documentary. So Frances started, of her own initiative, saying, I want to go to campuses, confront this, and open things for dialogue. I'm just going to walk on, and she has these things she puts on the ground, and she tries to talk to students about, what do you think about this? And they have a conversation. Then she says, would your mind change? How would you agree, disagree, somewhat disagree? And she has these things that she puts on the ground, and she shows it to them. If you found out that there weren't bodies, would it change your mind about A, B? It's a very interesting process. And it's not meant to be manipulative or anything. It's meant to be like, let's find out where people really stand.
Right.
And perhaps expose them to a side of this story or the truth that they haven't been exposed to yet. So whenever Frances, I've been to 3 of these events now with Frances. The first one was at a university called Thompson Rivers University, and that was in Kamloops. And that was the first one. The second one was at the University of Victoria.
Yes.
And the third one was at UBC on Thursday, on January 22nd. And the intensity of each of the groups that was there to meet us just grew exponentially with each place we went. So Frances also went on her own with Jim and some other people to do Fraser Valley University. And I believe she went out to Simon Fraser as well, but I wasn't at those ones. But Frances is a very, very brave woman.
She is. I've had her on, and she really is. And she was fired from Mount Royal University here in Calgary.
Yes.
And so I had to have her on because she, again, is another warrior. We don't see eye to eye. It's fantastic to have people that you don't necessarily see eye to eye on everything, but the issue that she's bringing up is so divisive. And we have to make people aware. I'm going to bring this other opportunity with. Let me see. You're at UBC here, so I'm going to bring this one up. So
oh boy, this should be good. It was a scene, boy.
It was put up here by Masha. So I think that you're probably aware of the video with
Yep.
Rebel News. It looks like, and
There's
you
Drea.
Yeah, there she is. Yeah, she's a warrior too. My gosh.
Boy.
Yeah, I like her. All right, we're gonna play play a minute or so of this. One moment.
All right, Miss Brodie, you've arrived. You've got quite the entourage ahead of you. Why is it important to us?
It's important because we need to have.
OneBC off our campus. Fascists off our campus. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you.
I don't know if there's any use playing any more of it because it's just more of the same, maybe more intense. I know I've seen a number of them, but I'm just so shocked. I've actually had a number of interviews with people that have lived through Mao's Cultural Revolution. And this is exactly, they are the Red Guard.
Yes, they are.
These
In fact,
university students.
we're calling them the Orange Guard.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Maybe I'll rename the episode the Orange Guard of BC, something like that, because they are taking over, and they don't listen, and they believe that they're just right to be threatening and violent and in your face. Yeah, what do you want to say about it? Sorry.
Well, it's deeply troubling. When you're watching this, I mean, I'm smiling because I'm watching it going, I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. You
Yeah.
guys are more than 19, maybe 18 years old. And one of them actually came up and whacked me on the arm. Like, that's a young guy.
Yeah.
I'm an older woman and you come up and hit somebody? Like,
Mm.
what were you raised in, a wolf den? I mean, what kind of children are these? And I don't understand how that they have been used. They are being fascinated by
For sure they are.
nation, by these. There are leaders on campus. We identified one of the organizers isn't even from British Columbia. He's from California and living in Washington State right now. So he's American and he's up here working on this. And these older guys come in and they seduce these kids into this way of thinking. They find kids who are feeling unaffiliated, they're feeling lost, they're maybe lonely, they're feeling disempowered, maybe they hate their parents, who knows? But
Yeah.
They've got something going on and they're locking onto this, and it's making them feel like they're part of something really important. And you can see how they're used, because some of these kids didn't even know what they were talking about.
Well, we've seen it over and over again. I mean, it's not just this discussion about the 215 bodies, and I'm using air quotes, in Kamloops. It's protests. It doesn't matter if it's ICE or if it's what other incident across Canada or in the United States. It's always the same thing. They bring in these brainwashed. I can't help but say brainwashed, because that's really what they are, is brainwashed to believe, and they have no substance. There is no actual argument. They've just been given the tools to be, I don't know if you said this, but like wild apes, and their arms are just flinging and they're screeching, right? I mean,
They did. They looked like baboons.
right.
They looked like baboons, and a lot of them can't even say more than drop F-bombs constantly. Right. F this, F that, F you, F you. And I remember at one point, Jim McMurtry said to one fellow, use your words. Like, is this your education? This is right. The level of discourse that you're comfortable with? Just F this, F this. And, we all know that when people are using swear words, it's because they want to feel more powerful. That's known psychology. We use swear words to amp up our message, to make ourselves feel more right. powerful for saying it. And this was just nonstop F-bombs. And this is, and they're not listening. In fact, I don't know if you have the part of the tape where a young man who was standing above me was yelling down at me. And I went over and I said, he says, I don't want to hear about, he goes, you talk about objective truth. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about that for a second. Do you believe in objective truth or subjective truth? And he said, I'm not going to talk to you. I said, why not? You engaged me in conversation. Why don't we just talk about that? What do you think? Do you believe in objective truth? And he says, you're not going to Charlie Kirk me. And I said, why not? He goes, I'm just not going to be Charlie Kirked by you. And I said, but isn't it good to talk? And he said, no, and I'm not talking to you. And then he just started yelling, and then he turned back on me. And a couple of younger people who did start talking to me, they were dragged off quickly by other people who said, and I could hear them saying, you're not supposed to talk to her, remember?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I've got it queued up here. Hopefully this is the right spot. Let's play it out and see if this is if you want to talk about it here. 1 second.
That's it.
You don't believe in that shit.
You do believe in subjective truth?
I don't believe in anything that you say.
No, but what do you believe? Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in subjective truth or objective truth?
With you.
Why not?
I'm not playing Charlie Kirk.
But why not? You asked to talk to me. I'm talking to you.
I didn't ask to talk to you. I was
you're yelling at me.
And you've got fucking bodyguards surrounding you too. Is that not threatening?
Well, your friend just hit me on the arm. So yeah, I do need bodyguards. Where's the guy? Let's have a forum out here about what's going on.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know what else to do. Obviously, we've got to wake up our youth. And I can say that I was very encouraged about last night. And I'm not trying to change the subject, but it was very encouraging, the young people that we had at our event here in Calgary. We had babies, we had toddlers, and there was teenagers, and it was fantastic. Anyway, I don't know what else can you guys are going to continue to do this, right? And you're going to continue to go out and try to make inroads. Is that the plan?
Yes, I don't think we have any more universities planned at this point, but we have the mob descent. That's the beginning. That was at the very beginning of the day when we got there at 11 in the morning. It literally descended into a threatening mob. If I hadn't had people around me and they had sticks, I think they would have beaten me to death, just like out of something out of the Cultural Revolution. I mean, anybody who knows about Mao's Cultural Revolution can look at pictures of it, and it looks just like this. It's young people beating up older people because Mao demanded that they get rid of what were the four olds. I think it was old traditions, old ways, old names, and old something else. So he wanted
religion, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there were four olds that were supposed to be removed by the Cultural Revolution, and this is what it looked like. And if you look back, you're like, you guys beat to death like your dad?
Right.
Like, it was really scary, and they did. Sometimes they would beat them until they were done. Yeah. And this is because they were whipped up into a frenzy and so indoctrinated. And people need to remember how susceptible young people are to radical ideas that sound so seductive and so perfect. And all our problems will go away if we just live this way. And of course, anybody who's lived for more than a few decades and done their history knows what happens with these dangerous communist governments. We've seen it with Joseph Stalin. We've seen it with Mussolini was different. I mean, he was fat. It was, but the same idea. He wasn't, but he wasn't as fat as Stalin. But we had Stalin. We had Pol Pot. We've had the North Vietnamese. We've had situations that are just insanity. And this is happens when you, and of course Nazi Germany, when you whip people into a frenzy, the young Nazis and the Nazi youth wing or whatever, I forget what they were called, but young people can get whipped up, and organizers know that, and because they're emotional and open, and so anyway, we had to actually start leaving. I didn't want to go, but one of my bodyguards, who's a professional, he said, Dallas, we've got to go. I said, I don't want to go. He said, I know you don't, but we got to move. This is now getting dangerous. And the police did not get in between us. It was shocking. And so, I won't go on and on about it, but we ended up having to barricade ourselves in the aquatic center of the university, where our security guys knew that there was only one entrance, and then no police, but different men, just some men who were there to help us, not even official bodyguards, had to block the door and hold on and stop the mob from coming in. It was, and then they stood around outside banging on the windows, banging.
I've seen some of that video too. Yeah.
In long story short, we don't have another one planned right away, but we have sent an official letter to the University of British Columbia pointing out this complete failure of that university that, by the way, receives $1.1 billion per year from the provincial government of British Columbia. Let's not forget that. This is a publicly funded institution, and we were marauded that day and not protected by the police or the campus security. It was a complete fail. They get F- for freedom of speech and fostering diversity of thought at that university. And I said, if I were premier for a day, the very first thing I would do is, you are defunded, you're losing all your money until you start fostering an environment of diversity of thought. Quit with the diversity of skin color and sexuality. Right. Let's have diversity of this. This is the only part that matters. The rest is superficial.
Hang on one second. I want to play, this looks like where your mob was sort of coming after you. And I'm going to play this for a minute, but I want to finish off the thought that you were talking about as far as whipping up the youngsters. And the one thing that people have to remember is, and I know there's a lot of people that are more historical understanding than I am, but I do know that what they did was they used these, the kids for the struggle sessions to beat the parents, to beat the teachers, to beat the leaders of the communities, and kill them and put them into prison or whatever the case was. And then they were the useless idiots that then got taken out after, because they were all done using them. Stalin and Mao both got rid of their Red Guard or whatever that was after.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. All right, let's see the orange guard and just a couple more minutes here. Do we know, does anybody know what they're marching for? Or are they just marching to oppose an idea? The idea of Kamloops is not what they've actually been told it is. I think that's what it is it not, Dallas?
I think some of them don't know what they're there for. Some of them are there. We recognize a bunch of them from being from the regular pro-Palestinian bunch that come out, the Antifa. So Antifa was there, the pro-Palestinian mob, the Turtle Island crowd. Do you know what the Turtle Island crowd is? They are the people.
I've heard about it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a group of basically Indigenous peoples or people who affiliate with Indigenous peoples who say that North America was never America. It was actually called Turtle Island.
Oh.
So all of your listeners, you'd be like to know that you actually live on the continent called Turtle Island. So they say from Turtle Island to the sea, Palestine will be free. That's one of their chants. So, Turtle Island is where you live. Did you know that?
Right.
So anyway, so the Turtle Island people were there. Douglas Murray, who's this brilliant man from Britain, calls them the international group of misfits who all come together, ridiculous glob, and they have no idea what they're even there for, but they just want to be part of something. And there's also the rent an educator group. Yeah.
Rent a thug. All right. If you're done with it, I'm going to change direction because I want to talk about some other things. Obviously, Dallas has a lot. You're a thick onion. We've got some other layers that we have to get through here. Okay. But obviously there's turmoil in OneBC, and because of what happened, I'd really like to get your thoughts on OneBC and the party. Do you want to talk about that? Is that something that you can get to?
Yeah. So OneBC, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just, I don't know how to get it started because I know that, there was obviously some turmoil and the board relieved you of your position and then
I relieved them of their duties.
So why don't you break it down and tell us what happened, and we can go as long as you want about that, but go on.
Okay, so it was a mess. So I'm still putting together the pieces of actually what was going on. I do believe there was a chaos agent sent into our group, but we formed OneBC back in June after two of us decided to form a party out in British Columbia because she had left the party at the same time I did, the Conservatives. So we in order to have official party status in British Columbia, you need to have 2 MLAs, and we had to form a party. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and we had this core group of people who worked on that from the beginning, and that party was incorporated in I guess it was early June, and we were doing really well, and we worked on the documentary, and honestly, as soon as the documentary aired, it was like
everything changed.
The main group was like, we're pulling the plug on Dallas. And it was insane because we had been all having such a good time. Yeah. There was only one person in the group who I had repeatedly asked to be removed. He was a low-level staffer, but he was taking pictures and doing things, but he was taking conversations in directions that I was not at all comfortable with. And that's sort of a side story, but I think that was the genesis of starting to realize there's something wrong with this party. Why is this kid, well, he's not a kid, he was 22, but why is he having so much sway over my chief of staff and our executive director? What is he doing? I'm the one who should be talking about policy, not this, Mm-hmm. Oh, there's my cat. So I started going, wait a second here. And about 3 times I'd asked for him to be fired throughout the summer. He wasn't getting his work done. He was causing blah, blah, blah. So ultimately, I think this was the genesis of the problems. And I think that I was having either it was a planned, 2 theories. It was a planned takeout, working together, Conservative Party, which is probably the most likely, or it was just a simple, we don't like Dallas telling us what to do, so we're going to be mean to her and just dominate her and put her back in her box and make her be just basically a hood ornament on this car.
Right.
So it's one of the two and maybe a combination of both. But we did know that this staffer was communicating with the Conservative Party executive director because he was witness doing it. And so this started to, it sounds pretty fishy. And looking back at a few things, pieces are coming together. But what happened ultimately is they tried to boot me out. I said, no. So I fired them, and they didn't have, so I ultimately fought, put on my lawyer hat, and I just fought, and they had made an offer. I
Nice.
took the offer and I got the party back. And we reconfigured, and all of this, we got the party back and rolling again before Christmas Day. And I ended up having the most beautiful Christmas Day. I was so happy that I had fought for OneBC. And believe me, I thought about saying, forget it.
Yeah.
I'm new to politics. This is just not worth it. And then the letters that were coming in, and I'm not, I don't want to sound too, maudlin here, but they really were touching letters. They were letters from people saying, you've changed my life. You've given me hope. I please never quit. Thank you so much. And when I was on the verge of saying, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't need this abuse in my life. One of my closest staffer started, she says, you can't, Dallas. You can't just quit.
You can't quit. Yeah.
He would start reading me 10, 15, 20, 30 emails. And so I started thinking, okay, well, what will this look like as we move forward? And the people who stood by me during that very difficult and depressing time, I would say it was extremely stressful. It was very sad, deeply hurtful. I was betrayed by two people who were my closest staff members. I mean, it was Shakespearean. I was like, what? How could this happen? And so, but sometimes through difficult times, you find that needed to happen. And so now we're functioning again, we're up and running, and things are rolling. Donations are rolling in, membership's growing, and the party's going really well again. We've lost our official party status in the legislature, but that's okay. We've got other ways of being effective there. And we're getting a lot of calls from people all around the province who want to organize. And so I'm an optimist, and I'm going to keep working and not give up. I'm never going to give up. I will
Amen.
never, ever give up. Just like Winston Churchill said, never, ever give in.
Amen. You know what? You and I were supposed to talk, and it was around Christmas time. I was reaching out to you and your assistant, and I saw what you were going through, and I thought, oh my gosh, and I know it didn't work out. So this is great that we're able to connect, and I do appreciate it. But I felt I'm one of the other ones that would have, reached out to you, because I did. That was, part of my hope was to talk to you and convince you that you needed to stay in OneBC. BC needed to have a conservative voice. And obviously, you know better than anybody that it doesn't have a conservative counterweight. There is no conservative counterweight out in BC. It's all bull, from what I can tell.
It doesn't have a conservative counterweight. Actually, I was just looking for this beautiful quote from Winston Churchill, which often gives me sustenance. But I'll find it because it's really beautiful. But there is no true, really strong person holding the line out here. And one of the biggest problems we're in BC, and it's actually a problem for all of Canada, is this Indigenous file. This was the biggest hot potato in the province. And I'm not just a one-issue person. I know there are other things I'm really worried about. I call it the addictions industry, the political industry we have here. We've got the rainbow industry, all of this, and it's live and kicking and well in this province. But this Indigenous file is touching every aspect of our life in this province. It's changing street names. It's changing city names.
Oh my gosh.
Bridge names. It's destroying our economy.
Richmond, BC.
Yeah. We're losing fee simple title. If you can believe this, fee simple is now at risk in this province.
Yeah.
I mean, this is insanity. It is absolute insanity. And David Eby, when he's the premier in British Columbia, when he says this was an unintended consequence of DRIPA, he is no, liar, pants on fire. You knew
his pants are on fire. Like,
yes, they are.
He should be walking around with a fire extinguisher all the time, because his pants have got to be on fire. That guy, I mean, all the politicians that, that we see across Canada are similar, but David Eby is a special level of low from what I can tell.
I wish he'd go back to Ontario and use his brand of ideology out there. He has destroyed this province, and he does everything sneakily and in the background, in back rooms. He's now negotiating. They just rolled out another agreement this week, giving a huge tract of land over to a band. He's like, what? Like, what are you doing? And then once it's rolled out, it's a fait accompli. It's done. There's nothing you can challenge. There's no a democratic way to challenge this. And then they roll out these agreements and they take them into court without telling anybody, and they get the judge to rubber stamp it. And now, even if a new government comes in, just try turning that over. I mean, and then he tries to tell us that this wasn't his intention, and that I'm like, no. You were all down for land back. The land back movement was, you stood in signs saying we're on stolen land when the Olympics came here. He is an ideologue through and through. He's a clever, yes, but he knows what he's doing, so he can't claim that he's like doy. I don't know anything.
He's not a Justin Trudeau who fell into and they give him lines and he just reads them out. No, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And this was the whole thing. And I think what he's shocked is like, wow, people are actually angry. It's like, yes, David, they are angry. And I'm shocked that you didn't see this coming, but this is where he's at. And British Columbians, I mean, 20 years ago, I remember watching the cases roll out of the Supreme Court of Canada, and I was in shock. Del Gamook was the one that really rocked me. Del Gamook was the one that said the rules of hearsay evidence no longer apply in these cases involving claims for Aboriginal title and so on. Which means you can say you just remember something. I was told 7 generations back, passed down through 7 generations, that this is what we did. We fished here 150 years ago or whatever. And so, because hearsay is a rule that safeguards the truth in any court situation. Because hearsay is an out-of-court statement that you're trying to assert in court for the truth of the matter contained in that statement. So it sounds complicated, but basically you can't come into court and say, I heard Joe say that Jim killed him.
Right. We can't use second and third hand accounts, right?
Right. You can say that you heard that, but you can't assert it for the truth contained in it. You can't say that's evidence that he did do. But so those rules were developed over hundreds and hundreds of years through the courts and common law to ensure that the truth, as best you can get to, is reached in court decisions. But in Del Gamook, all those rules were thrown out the window, and that's when it started. And I remember thinking, and I knew it was going to end up at private property. Anybody who was watching knew that. Yeah. But people don't like to think about things sometimes until it's right up in their grill.
Yeah. So, okay, before we move on, I've got 2 things. I want to ask you about Richmond. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel as far as Richmond is concerned? Because this is huge, Dallas. Yeah. I mean, this is worldwide news. You know, that fee simple land title is gone. I mean, you can kiss your property goodbye essentially in anywhere in BC at this point, right?
Yes, and other cases are popping up now.
Yeah.
So no, there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
No light.
Okay. The government promised to go in and get a stay of the judgment, but they haven't done that.
Of course, they don't want to do that.
And then the appeal. How can they appeal something that wasn't argued at trial? They said they're now going to allow new arguments at appeal level. You can't do that. You can only make an appeal based on an error of law in the trial, and you can't start with.
And there was no trial. There was no trial.
And there was a trial, but it went, by the way, 10 years. Most expensive trial, over 600 days or close to 600 days of trial, and something like 62 or 80 lawyers. It was insanity. And so, but the thing is, this is a mess, and I don't know how they're going to fix it, because the Supreme Court, it's going to head to the Supreme Court of Canada. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for this to grind its way through the courts, those titles, no one wants to buy those properties. No. And apparently mortgages are being denied. And one major landowner there, that's a commercial landowner, a group called Montrose Properties, has launched an appeal at the trial, saying the trial needs to be reopened. And that's major, because they've got a lot of commercial land down there. They've made improvements. They've got loans all secured against the land, and the title is in question. And then the The other thing is that there's a real estate appraisal company. Paul Sullivan is one of the top real estate appraisal people who challenges appraisals for your property taxes. So if you get a property tax notice that says your property's worth $1 million, you think it's too high, you hire Paul, and he goes in and makes the argument and shows the comparables from other pieces of property near there. Well, he's doing a class action assessment thing, saying, well, if they're worth zero, then what about the taxes that they've been paying for all these years?
Wow. Yes.
Think about
Good
this.
argument. Yeah.
Yes. What about the tax? They never owned it,
Yeah.
but they've been
So
paying
that-
taxes.
But they've been
maintained,
paying taxes. Yeah.
and now they're saying, why should we pay taxes going forward if we don't own it?
Yeah.
Big problem here. And so this is but these are the things that people like EB never really like to think about, because this is the detail that rolls out. It's like they changed the name of a street in Vancouver from a street called Trutch Street, which was named after one of the original people in BC. I think his name was Lord Trutch, and he was one of the major land surveyors here, and he did all this work crawling through BC surveying. And he made uncomplimentary and comments about Native people back then when he was here. And based on that, they said, well, this name of the street has to be changed. So they renamed it to a street name that's indecipherable and no one can read. And so all of those people there now have to change their 40, 50, 60 different IDs and stuff to something that isn't even the English alphabet. And you can see, and these people I've spoken to, that's in the documentary too. We have this thing where we're looking at this sign. It's now called Schmuckweemasum Street, but you can't read it. It's like, it's gone from Trutch Street, which was a very prestigious address. I mean, think of a road in where you live that's everybody's own. I mean, if they didn't like what Trutch did, okay, let's put a plaque on every street post near that says he was a bad guy. We don't like what he said. He was racist or whatever. But to change a street name, once again, if I were premier for a day, every street would go back to its original name. All the highway signs would go back to their original names, and let's stop this. This is getting out of control, and it's costing money that we don't have when basically it's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. This province is sinking and we're redoing signs. Think about that for a minute.
Okay, I think I may have found a quote, and maybe this is the one that you like. And this is by Winston Churchill. So I'm going to read it out, and maybe this is, you tell me if it is. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. That
is not it, but it's beautiful. And that is exactly the kind of thing that and I go to these people, like even I go to Margaret Thatcher and people who were really strong leaders who knew how to hold the line, even when you're getting hordes attacking you. You know, Churchill was very unpopular until the war started and they realized they needed him. And when Chamberlain came back from meeting with Hitler, and he came back with that piece of paper and he said, I've got to deal with Hitler and we will have peace in our time. And he came into the House of the Parliament in England, and everybody was clapping and cheering. Everybody was so happy. And Churchill, the skunk in the room, stood up and said, we have suffered an unmitigated defeat. And they booed him and they hated on him. And then suddenly the next day or that week, what happens? Hitler invades Poland. And they realized they'd all been had, and Churchill was right.
Right.
And Churchill's, oh gosh, I really want to find it because it's beautiful. And I just, but I just can't seem to find it here. But
that's okay.
I just think it's the most beautiful thing. But
we can talk about it. I'm going to tell you that we have to have another episode.
Okay.
You and I have to have another discussion so we can talk about Winston Churchill and the quote. You can have it then. So that would be fantastic.
Thank you.
That would be fantastic. So I do have something else I want to talk to you about. Obviously, OneBC, this is a huge subject, you moving forward, and with the party, and now you've got the wheels back on the cart, and you're heading forward. Obviously, you'd like to see BC, changed. You'd like to see BC in a more conservative light.
Yes.
I have to ask you a question. Let's pretend that you are the premier of BC and you're OneBC and Premier Dallas Brodie. Now we have independent Alberta next to you out east. Will you work with us
Yes.
get whoa, I didn't even get a chance to ask the question. This is fantastic. Okay, we need you in in BC because we need to get our resources to Tidewater, and you need to get your resources from the ports across Canada. So
Bingo.
we would like to work with Dallas Brodie as
Yeah.
the independent nation of Alberta. Okay, now we've picked who should be in power in BC. Oh, I have
I
one
love
more thing.
Alberta. I love Alberta. My dad was in the oil and gas industry when he was a young man and built a business out here, and then went to work to help with the debt restructuring of Turbo Resources in the. I guess
Oh
it
yeah,
was- and he
70,
loved that. And I
yeah.
remember he talked to me about Alberta. He goes, Dallas, or Dal, he'd call me Dal. I've never seen people like this. I just love it there. The work ethic, the people. He said there's no union shutting things down. They're laying those pipes, and they're laying it daytime, nighttime, floodlights. Everybody's in gear. He said it's just so exciting here. And he absolutely loved it. And I really believe that a lot of British Columbians really feel left out too, because they're not in the lower mainland. Like Vancouver and the lower end of Vancouver Island are really dominating things, and the rural areas of British Columbia feel completely neglected, and they should feel that way.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Shafted.
Yeah, they're shafted because the industry is dying, and people in
Yeah.
Vancouver, they can survive on Starbucks and cappuccinos.
Right.
If you don't have the undergirding industry to support what's going on in the cities, because the head offices will be down here and so on, then you need cafeterias and you need coffee shops and you need grocery stores. But all of these jobs are created by what's going on up there, right? So
Right.
you need, but with the forestry industry, the mining industry, fisheries, I mean, it's just.
Well, with greenwash, you can't actually do anything except for build windmills and solar panels, and then you put everybody on UBI. You've heard the story before. You put everybody on UBI because they're all going to get their paycheck, but there's nobody to pay the bills so that you can get UBI. This is the trap that we're falling into here in Alberta. We're not going to let it happen anymore. But our cities have been overrun by UBI, fanciful, I don't know, video game players, weed smokers. I don't know what it is, but our provinces are kind of screwed, and we're not taking it anymore, Dallas. So we're getting the heck out.
Well, I know that there was an informal poll done last year at some point, and I put it to David Eby in our province. Apparently, between 28 and 30% of British Columbians favor separation from British Columbia or from Canada.
Yeah.
So I say to myself, that's not even when it has never even been officially discussed out here. And I'm not a booster for separatism. That's not what I'm running on. But if people wanted a referendum on it, let people decide. This isn't my province or your. This belongs to British Columbians. But we are also being impacted, remember, by major groups out of the United States. One of them is the Tides Foundation, which now goes by makeway.org, and the Rockefeller Foundation, which has for the last over 20 years, has been working to basically landlock Alberta.
Of course.
And they want to turn BC into a park, and nothing shall go through. And this Coastal First Nations group that they supposedly trotted out to oppose Mark Carney's plan for a pipeline is a big front group for these environmental organizations. They're not a band, they're not official, and that's what's really going on there. And I think you've probably already covered that on other shows. But and Carney's sort of using that group to give him sort of plausibility to say, well, I tried. He doesn't. I don't know what Carney's doing, frankly. Extremely concerning, his move towards China and all this. I mean, what can I say? Everywhere I turn, everything's on fire. But if I were premier for a day, or if I started, I would start with transition teams with people, experts in all the fields. And I'd say, you guys are deputized, come back in 2 weeks. I need a plan. And we start.
You know what I see you as, and I'm envisioning this for you. I'm seeing you as the female version of Javier Milei. How about that?
Afuelo. Don't you love him?
I love that. I love that guy.
He's so great.
He's so animated, but I love that about him.
I just love him and how he, and he was being interviewed one day, and all the names I've been called, how horrible, right? I mean, but he's been called everything: mentally unstable, insane, pedophile, wife abuser. He's been called a zoophile. Okay, I had to look that one up. He was in an interview, he says the left will say anything they want about you. They lie. And they will just say anything. They'll call you any names. They will use any device they can to take you down if you get in their way. And they don't care what they do to you. They will destroy you. They come after you financially. They're nasty.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to leave it off by saying one other thing that I forgot to say earlier, but I truly believe that that you were politically attacked, and I think that was what was happening with OneBC. I know there's a lot of people that that think that. I mean, because you had a bit of momentum moving forward, and I think that a lot of people in BC, like you mentioned, the Lower Mainland and more to the eastern side of BC, I think that they're more aligned with Alberta and Saskatchewan as far as a frame of mind. Yes. And you're the cup of tea for me, and a cup of tea for a lot of hardworking people, the interior BC, the Saskatchewanites, and I guess would you call yourself a populist? Is that?
I think so. I think populist is a good word. I mean, I don't know why people consider that a dirty word. You should be populist. Those are the people.
Exactly.
I don't get why it's a bad word. I love being called a populist. I do believe in the people being responsible for their own lives. Most of the people voting who support me are people who want the government to get the hell out of their lives.
Yes.
Get out of
Make
my
it as
life,
small as possible.
Make sure the power's on, make sure the roads work, make sure the bridges work, and please be quiet and go away. We don't want you, and please stop taxing me to death so that my kids can build a nest egg and accumulate some capital and get a start here. But the government is now, and stop forcing us and controlling us. I will control myself, thank you very much. And there's criminal laws for people who can't control themselves. So let's be real. Yeah. And the government is overstepping on almost every area of our lives now, and it started during the mandates, and it's continuing on, and it's frightening. I was up at that ostrich farm, for example. That is the saddest, terrible thing. I could not believe what I saw there. They had enough cops there. Like, where were the cops on Thursday when I was being assaulted? But they're up there guarding ostriches. It was absolute.
They weren't guarding the ostriches. Let's make this the correct language. They were guarding from the people from protecting the ostriches because they wanted to take out the ostriches. You know, I see a mirror with the ostrich farm, and I'm sure you probably thought about this as well. But if the government can do that to 300 ostriches, they can easily do that to any Canadian out there. I mean, there is no boundaries really anymore. And I think it was a test. I think it was partially a test for the government and the RCMP to, see if they could pull it off and, not be slaughtered themselves. I think that's what they were, making sure that they could get away with it. So
it was so sneaky what they were doing too. They were building up that kill pen for weeks, and they put up fences all around the thing. So Katie Pisitny couldn't even go in and see her birds. How sick is that?
Yeah.
She knew these birds. They were looking for her. I saw them looking for her. And I love animals. And I know that sometimes terrible things, like you have to cull a herd, it's sick. I get it. But these were really big birds. Even if Katie, if they had really been sick, by the way, they wouldn't let her test them. That's weird. Okay.
Yes.
Why don't you know? So there's the first problem. And the second problem is that if they were sick, Katie would have participated in the humane euthanization of her birds. She's not a wingnut. She's a really good person.
Yeah.
The birds were 150 kilometers from any other farm. They're wingless birds or flightless birds. And so anyway, and then can we talk the way they slaughtered those animals? They were running around screaming and bumping into each other. Like, come on. Like, really? I've been with a dog that I had to euthanize once. It's very quick and it's very gentle and it's peaceful. They did not need to do that. It was so mean. And now they're fining Katie like $10,000. So adding insult to injury, it's like they're serving up a dose of lesson. Don't anybody else try this.
Right. Yeah.
We're gonna slaughter you.
That's right. I mean, we saw it in the convoy. We saw it when they inflicted the Emergencies Act as well. Yeah. And we saw it in Coots here in Alberta. We saw the same thing happen, right?
Which, by the way, the use of the Emergencies Act has now been ruled out of order by the Court of Appeal. So now you've got the
The second time. Yeah.
Yes. So we've got 4 judges now who have said they overstepped. And Ezra Levant tried to ask Chrystia Freeland about that in Davos.
Oh, I saw that.
I saw that. And boy, she didn't like that, did she?
No, she
She
didn't.
didn't like being called on that. But what she did that time, that was a gross overstepping. And the charter
It was illegal. It wasn't just gross overstep. It was illegal.
It was
They
illegal.
should be in jail.
Yes. Yes. And they should have spoken to the people at that time instead of just mowing them over. Like, it was a terrible event. And there's still a gaping wound in Canada, what happened then, and it hasn't been properly addressed yet. But there needs to be a reckoning on what happened there as well. So,
you know what? Hopefully this gives some solace, but I believe that 2026 is the year of the reckoning, and there's going to be some reckoning, as far as I believe.
There's going to be some reckoning and some splaining to do. It's like splaining and reckoning.
That's right.
We've got to have more like
accountability for sure.
Another excellent ruling last week that the federal government, the privacy commissioner, has ordered that the government has to cough up those records about the Kamloops Indian Residential School.
Oh, that's right.
That was big news.
Can you explain that a bit? Sorry.
Yeah, really quickly. When the Kamloops Indian Residential School asked for money to exhume the bodies, they said there were 215 bodies of children that were buried in the orchard.
Yeah.
That was in May of 2021. They demanded money to do the exhumations, and they got $12.1 million for that. It's a lot of money. It's a small band. Like, we're not talking thousands of people. This is a small band. They got the money. And as part of that advancement of that money, they were supposed to file progress reports as about the progress of the digging.
Yeah.
But guess what? No digging was done, and the money was apparently spent on consultants, psychiatrists, and media.
Wow.
And so about a year ago, I think there's a group called Black Locks, which is a group that it's a researching group. I'm not quite sure whether they're a news group or what they are, but they had filed a Freedom of Information request for those progress reports. And that was over a year ago, and they kept denying them the reports. And then the federal government went a further step, and they said they're sealing the records. Well, Black Locks appealed, and I think another group appealed as well. They appealed what was going on, and it went to the Federal Privacy Commission. I think her name is Carolyn Bennett, I can't remember, but she was very brave, and she made an order saying this is outrageous. You need to release all of the documents within 30 days. So end of February, those documents are coming out, and let's hope they're not just covered with black Sharpie pen, you know, because we need truth about what's happened. Because in the documentary, I interview one of Canada's greatest scholars named Tom Flanagan. And I said to him, why do they hold to this story about the bodies so much? Like, why don't they just come on and say, look, we made a mistake. We jumped the gun. We shouldn't have said this. We didn't have the proof yet, but we will now embark on an exhumation, or we don't want to do it, and we're just saying we know there are no bodies there.
Right.
And he said, because Dallas, so much, that movement has made such gains as a result of that. And he does this thing with the town. He said, if you pull on the strings of that, down comes the house.
Yeah.
And so it is a really big deal. I actually think it's, first of all, they need to dig because they took the money, or they should return the money with interest. But either way, we need a reckoning about what is actually there. And we need to know the truth, because truth is what makes Canadians confident that we're making policy based on strong footings.
Yeah.
You don't want to, pour cement around your house using grainy, like, it has to be strong and firm and clear and perfect and plumb. And you can't do it on like just sandcastles. And so, because everything that comes out of it is going to be flawed. And so now, and it's building animosity in our country. And remember, over 100 churches were burned and vandalized in the wake of that announcement. We lowered our flag to half-mast for 5 or 6 months. We were labeled a genocidal state by the United Nations. UNDRIP was made official law in Canada. It goes on and on what happened.
The Pope visited.
And the money that was barfed out of Ottawa after that was just like something we've never seen before.
Yes. Okay, I have one more question, and I know it's a short one, but I want to end off by asking, you work hard. You are put yourself in front of these situations.
Yeah.
I know what I do it for. I do it for my children. Is that part of what we all are in this fight for? Is for a better world? Is that kind of what fires you up?
Two things fire me up. What my ancestors did here, I'm Indigenous British Columbian. I grew up here. I'm a 5th generation Vancouverite. My children are 6th generation Vancouverites and British Columbians and Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
And my ancestors built this town with other industrious people who gave everything they had to build the community centers, the churches, the roads, planting pretty, beautiful trees, planning things, making things flow, planning where things would go, designating parks. This was an amazing country. We built a Canadian National Railway, like incredible story.
Incredible feats, yeah.
I feel like I owe a debt of gratitude to the people who came before me. And it actually makes me quite emotional to think that our age group, like, you know, I was born in 62, so you can do the math. But anyway, I really feel that a lot of us had such a good ride in the 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s that we were asleep at the wheel and we didn't see what was happening in all our institutions. And now we've woken up and seen, good God, the inmates have taken over the asylum. Like, this is insanity. And we've got nut bars running things. And then they're lording over us now. And so our age group needs to get their butts out of their chairs and start doing something. And also we owe it to our children, because I'm fighting for my kids, but I really feel that I would be irresponsible not to fight for this country and the Canada we once had. There are people who gave their lives. And when people say I'm brave, I'm like, no, I'm not. Brave is getting out of a boat at Normandy. Okay. That's brave. That's sitting in a trench with rats crawling over you and your arm blown off and your buddy dead beside you. This is being called a racist or a fascist or all the things they like to call me. I think I can handle that compared to what
minor. Yeah, it's pretty minor.
And so we need to find our strength in our inner, and stop worrying about what your friends think. Stop worrying about upsetting the dinner party. Stand your ground and say, no, you guys, we got to deal with this. And we can't look away anymore and just go to Palm Springs and say, oh yeah, well, I don't want to do it. Or I'll go sit on my boat down in San Diego, or I'll go to my place in Hawaii. I've gotten mad at some people from my age group saying, come on, you guys, I'm back here fighting. You know, if y'all leave, they win.
Yes.
So they'd like nothing better than for all of us to leave. I'm not leaving.
Or to shut down, or to zone out, right? Yeah.
Get stoned and you know, so many people are stoned now, like they're just asleep.
Yeah.
And that's not a way to live. So I say, go into the gym, get fit, get strong, get busy, because they want you fat and lazy and stoned.
Yes. Well, this has been fantastic. You have left it all out on the table. Well, I'm going to call you back for a poem from Winston Churchill, and we're going to have another meetup in the next little while. But God bless you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here on Unscrew the News and be here with me and my and the audience. Okay, it's really an honor, Bruce, and thank you. The work you're doing is just as important as mine. And I say to people, if you can't do much, because you are scared, you need to feed your family, go to work tomorrow and delete the land acknowledgement. Delete the pronouns if that's what you want to do. Just push back in your own quiet ways. There's ways of doing it. And you could stay within the lines, but color boldly, as they say. Nice. Yeah. I love it. If you don't mind sticking around, I'm just going to say goodbye to the audience. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for participating in Waking Up Canada. Make sure to get this message out. Share it to more people. Share it to more eyeballs. Get it out to social media. And we're going to say goodbye. So thank you very much for participating. I always say, keep your head on a swivel. Let's stay sane together. And this is Bruce. I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching Unscrew the News. I appreciate your participation in freedom in Canada. Share this information and help others to wake up. God bless.